All right, this is Module 4, Lesson 12, continuing on to more lessons here in Topic B. All right, so again, this is going back to the last lesson. We were working with two variables. So we're going to continue that going here. It says, Emily tells you that she scored 32 points in the basketball game. Write down all the possible ways she could have scored 32 with only 2 and 3 point baskets. So how can she score 32 points if she only shot 2-pointers and 3-pointers? Okay, so you kind of basically want to think of numbers that when you combine them can give you 32. So I know one right off the bat I can say is 16 times 2 because it's a 2-pointer. That's going to give me, she had a 16 2-pointer and 0 3-pointers. Then I know, grabbing my calculator here just to kind of show you what I'm doing, I know that 16 times 2 gives me 32. So what you want to do is set this up that when you combine these would give you 32. All right, let's try another one. Let's try 13. So I'm going to say if I did 13 times 2, let me come over here to my calculator. 13 times 2, that gives me 26. So how much more do I need to get to 32? Well, I know I could do 2 3-pointers because 2 times 3 gives me 6. And if I add in a 6 there, I get my 32. Let's try another one. Let's try 10. Because I know 10 times 2 gives me 20, which means I would need 4 3-pointers because that would be 4 times 3 is 12. And so on your calculator, I would say 20 plus 12, and I got my 32 again. Let's try 7. 7 times 2 gives me 14. So I have 14 already. I'm going to go ahead and fill these in for us. 20, and that was 26. And this was 32. All right. Over here we got 6, and over here we got 12. Just so you can see, looking back at this, how we got these values. So if I have 14, I can come over here to my calculator and I can do 32 take away 14. Let's say you're drawing a blank. So I need something that's going to give me 18. 18. I could do 9 and 2. I could, well, no, I can't do 9 and 2 because this is a 3-pointer. So I need something times 3. So let's problem solve this. Something times 3 that will give me 18. Well, how about 6? There you go. Let's try a smaller number. Let's try 4. So I know 4 times 2 is going to give me 8. So again, you can come up here to your calculator. You can do 32, take away 8 is 24. All right, so something times 3 that gives me 24. Well, how about 8? There you go. And the last one, let's just make it really simple. Let's say 1. So 1 times 2 is going to give me 2. So I need something times 3 over here that would give me my remaining 30. And that would give me 10. All right, so you don't have to pick numbers that are going to be very difficult. You can pick numbers that are going to give you some well-rounded answers. But you can kind of see how we solve this out. Use your calculator to help you if you're getting stuck on, oh my gosh, how much more do I need and what numbers am I looking for? Notice this whole side was times 3 and this whole side was times 2. All right, so now it says let X be the number of 2-pointers and Y be the number of 3-pointers that Emily scored. Write an equation to represent this equation. So how many times did I multiply the X by? 2. So that's 2X. And then I added it. If you remember, we went down here and we added all these to get to that bonus number of 32, right? So I'm going to add that to what I did to my Y column. Well, what did I multiply my Y column by each time? I multiplied it by 3, so that's 3Y, to give us the grand total of that 32. And there's my equation. All right, let's go to the next part here. Clear this out. Now it says list 5 solutions for this linear equation and then plot them on a graph. So I'm going to let you plot your own graphs today because I did that in the previous lesson. All right. And if you notice, they didn't give us graph paper on this worksheet. So you're going to want to get a piece of graph paper for these. And on your graph paper, you're going to want to number them, number 1, number 2, so I can find your graphs that go to which table. All right. But I will help you with setting up the table, but you will need to do your own graphing. So we want 5 values. I'm just going to make it easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So I'm going to plug these values in for my x. So I'm going to say 1 plus y equals 3. 2 plus y equals 3. 3 plus y equals 3. 4 plus y equals 3. And 5 plus y equals 3. Now, we don't even need our calculator, hopefully, for this one, friends. Just ask yourself, 1 plus what gives me 3? Well, 2. 2 plus what would give me 3? 1. 3 plus what would give me 3? 0. Now, this one you might have to think. 4 plus what gives me 3? Well, obviously, I'm subtracting. So how about 4 take away 1, which would be a -1. And 5 plus what gives me 3, which means I'm going to subtract 2. All right, let's try the next table down below here. Move this up. All right. It says pick 5 solutions again and plug it in. So I'm just going to make my numbers nice again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to plug those in for my x. So I have 2 times 1 minus y equals 10. 2 times 2 minus y equals 10. 2 times 3 minus y equals 10. 2 times 4 minus y equals 10. And 2 times 5 minus y equals 10. All right. Now, you could use your calculator to help you, but I think these numbers, because we chose them, are rather small, but you do need to show some work here. So 2 times 2 is going to give me, or 2 times 1 is going to give me 2. Subtract y gives me 10. 2 take away what is going to give me 10? Well, if you're drawing a blank and you're not real sure, because now you can see I can't take anything away from 2 and get a perfect 10. Well, that means you're dealing with an integer. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And those cancel, and I wind up with my -y equals 8. Now, your y or your variable can never be negative. So you just transfer that negative over to the value. So this is going to be y equals -8. All right, let's do another one. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus y equals 10. So as you can tell, we're going to be doing with integers. You could subtract 4 to help you here. These cancel. -y equals 6. Give that negative to the number, so y equals -6. All right, let's try the next one. We have 2 times 3 is 6 minus y equals 10. So again, we're going to move that 6 over. Those cancel. I get -y equals 10, take away 6 is 4. Give that negative to the 4, making it -4. All right, I'm going to put my other ones over here. We have 2 times 4 is 8 minus y equals 10. So again, subtract that 8. And I get -y equals 2. Give that negative to the value here of -2. And the last one, go ahead and try on your own. If you need to pause the video, you may. All right. So now we're going to list 5 solutions again, and then also represent them on a coordinate plane. So again, I'm not going to show you how to graph. You guys can put your own graphs on a piece of graph paper, but I will help set you up here. All right, this time, however, I'm going to show you that you can start with the y. You don't always have to start with x. So I'm going to pick 5 solutions for my y just to show you can go in a different direction. So this is going to be x plus 5 times 1 equals 21. X plus 5 times 2 equals 21. X plus 5 times 3 equals 21. X plus 5 times 4 equals 21. And finally, x plus 5 times 5 equals 21. Now, the other reason I decided to do the y's this time instead of the x is if you notice the x is by itself. So this would actually give me a multiple step problem to solve. And so sometimes it's a little easier to solve for the x than it is to solve for the y because my x is already by itself. And I eventually want my number here to be by itself. Okay, so it just makes it a little bit easier, maybe one less step. All right, so I'm going to do my work over here off to the side. So I have x plus 5 times 1. So that's going to be x plus 5 gives me 21. What plus 5 is going to give me 21? Now, again, if you want to use your calculator, that's fine. So you would just subtract 21, take away 5, and that gives me, let's try that again. 21, take away 5, my calculator. 21, take away 5. There we go, 16. It wasn't working for a minute there. All right, 16. Here we have x plus 5 times 2 is 10 is going to give me 21. So I know that's going to be an 11. X plus 15 equals 21. So 21 take away 15 is going to give me 6. X plus 20 equals 21. Well, that should be rather easy, just a 1. And x plus 25 gives me 21. Well, you can tell we obviously subtracted, which means my number is going to be negative. And so what's the difference between 25 and 21? It's 4. So it must be negative 4. All right, consider this equation. Will you choose to fill in the x or fill in the y? So as I mentioned before, I did the y's this time just to show you can go the other direction, but also to show you it was a little bit easier because my x value was already by itself. So they just want you to go ahead and solve this out. Now I do see that if I picked multiples of 5 for my x's, I could cancel the 5s into those numbers and then solve it straight out. So that could be easier. But my y here can be done in one step as well because my y is already by itself. So I'm just going to say here, I would choose values for x to be easier in solving. Okay, this would just, to me, would be easier. If I chose, I'm going to make this a little bulleted thing. If I chose values for y, it requires one extra step. Requires one more extra step. So that would just be kind of how I answer that, but you can answer it how you feel. You know, it's kind of, it asks, will you choose? So you can kind of pick your own answer there. All right, let's move on down to the next one. Are there any specific numbers that you can use to make your work easier? Well, that's what I mentioned. Because you had 2 over 5 times that x, I would say values for x in multiples of 5 would be easy because then they could cancel out. So I can even write myself an example here. I could say example, we had 2 over 5 and let's say I chose 20. All right, I know that 20 is a multiple of 5 and 5 can go into 24 times and then this would be 2 times 4 which would be 8. So that makes it nice if you could choose values, your own values for x, then I would choose multiples of 5 just so you have that ability. Now, sometimes you don't always get your own choice to choose, but in this case, you could. All right, let's look at this problem here. Again, we're going to choose 5 solutions. Now, we're looking at this exact equation we were just talking about. So let's use those multiples of 5 just to make life a little bit nicer. So I'm going to say 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. We have 2/5 times 5 plus y equals 11. 2/5 times 10 plus y equals 11. 2/5 times 15 plus y equals 11. 2/5 times 20 plus y equals 11. And 2/5 times 25 plus y equals 11. All right, now again, you could have solved for the y's, or you put in values for y and solve for x, whatever you wanted to. I just saw that this would be an easier cancellation method. So 5 goes into 5, they cancel, and I'm left with 2 plus what gives me 11? Well, the answer is 9. 5 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 plus what gives me 11? That would be 7. 5 goes into 15 3. 2 times 3 gives me 6, plus what is going to give me 11? I would need 5. And we did this earlier. 5 goes into 24 times. 2 times 4 is 8, plus what gives me 11? I would need 3. And 5 goes into 25 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 plus what would give me 11? And the answer would be 1. So you're going to see if you pick your own multiples, or you can pick your own values and use this cancellation method, it makes it a little bit easier, and you can do a little bit more mental math with it as well. Number 5. At the store, you see that you can buy a bag of candy for $2 and a drink for $1. Assume you have a total of $35 to spend. You are feeling generous, and you want to buy some snacks for you and your friends. Write an equation in standard form to represent the number of bags of candy, X, and the number of drinks, Y, that you can buy for 35 cents. All right, so you can see that candy is 2. Well, candy, they want me to use X, so that's going to be 2X. And drinks are $1. They want me to use Y for drinks. So if I add those together, and I set it equal to my total value of money I have, which is $35. There's your equation. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the part B and solve this out in the table. You need to graph it. That's what I meant to say. So they do want you to graph this one. You'll just have to graph it on your graph paper. So let's go ahead and write in our equation. We wrote 2x plus y equals 35. Again, you pick. You can fill in for y's, you can fill in for x's. So because my y is already by itself, I'm going to put in values for x's, and that way I can keep my y by itself in one less extra step. And you can pick whatever numbers you want. I'll just show you. I can pick completely random numbers. I'm going to say 4, 5, 8, 10, 15. All right, so here we go. We have 2 times 4 plus y equals 35. 2 times 5 plus y equals 35. 2 times 8 plus y equals 35. 2 times 10 plus y equals 35. And finally, 2 times 15 plus y equals 35. All right, so let's do our work over here off to the side. We have 2 times 4, which is going to give me 8. 8 plus what is going to give me 35? That would be 27. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus what is going to give me 35? That would be 25. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 plus what gives me 35? That would be 19. 2 times 10 is 20, so 20 plus what would give me 35? That would be 15. And finally, 2 times 15 is 30, plus what is going to give me 35? That would be 5. All right, so that's the end of this lesson.